So, live from New York. Um,
Mm.
it's no, thank you. Looking forward to this wonderful session. Peg and I welcome you. This is actually the last Faith in Action Forum that we'll be holding on Wednesdays. I'm going to be holding, and Peg and I will be holding um, a similar forum in the new year in January, because we're going to be starting looking at Unity's 5 principles, and we'll do forums on that. We're small, but I have a lot of times found that small meetings are super de duper. So having said that, Peg, let me turn it over to Peg.
Well, hi everyone. It's so nice to be with you. So let's begin by closing our eyes and following our breath. As we do so, we feel a stillness, a sacred stillness, relaxation spreading through our whole selves, mind, body, spirit. And we welcome all the colors of the rainbow tonight. All the colors of the rainbow. So I'd like you to pick one color that you're especially fond of and visualize that color in your mind. And ask yourself, what does that color represent to me now? What does that color represent to me? Let the relaxation of that color spread through you, mind, body, spirit. And know that each of us represents our own set of colors, or we might say even characteristics that are our gifts to give. So we're here tonight to share our gifts, our thoughts, and our spirits as we move into the silence. Yes, dear Spirit, we are that. We are one with you and with each other. And for this, we give great thanks. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Peg. And I think apropos, again, I think it's amazing the synchronicity of daily word. Today's daily word is guidance, and I'm not going to read it all, but the affirmation is, I trust and follow divine guidance, which I think is going to tie in to tonight. And I was thinking towards the end, these are some of the opening quotes that Lieberman starts with. In one, where living in a world of technology. Here's a quote from Henry David Thoreau: men have become the tools of their tools. Men have become the tools of their tools. In looking less and seeing more, he has a quote from Louise Nevelson: my total conscious search in life has been for a new seeing, a new image, a new insight. The search not only includes the object, but the in-between place. And lastly, in the epilogue, he quotes from James King, who says, our purpose is hidden in our joys, our inspiration, our excitement. As we act on what shows up in life, our purpose shows up. As we act on what shows up in our lives. Our purpose shows up. Towards the end, and I thought Mary Rupp, as one of the artists last Sunday, really captured it. He talks a lot about technology and about multitasking, and that I was really struck by Deborah's talk, Reverend Deborah's talk about multitasking. I don't know about you, but there are times where it's the old story is to be Googleized was when you were on Google for an hour and a half and you forgot what you went to Google to look up, originally. And then when Deborah talked about Flatland and mindlessly, scrolling to the next image and stuff like that. And I, again, can sometimes say, well, you want to know what's, happening to people in your congregation, and there may be somebody who, has gone to the hospital that you don't know, but the next thing you're seeing the third Taylor Swift, and Travis Kelce, whatever, and it goes on, and you finish the, and it's an hour, it's an hour and a half, or whatever, and it just a sense of emptiness and wasting. As I shared, I do believe in two-way prayer. Write a letter to your higher power, and then center and write. Either it's your higher power, or a lot of times it could be your higher self writing back. And I find that a lot of times, whoever it is, it's a lot better information it's a lot better guidance than on just on normal. And so I wrote because he talks, and one of the key things I think he's getting at here is what he calls it presence or flow. And it's when he did so many tests as an optometrist and found that what the eye was seeing and what they were thinking were not one and the same, and they were not aligned. And that I think it was over 70% of the cases that was it. And he said the presence is when our eyes and our brains are synchronized and, as it were, looking at the same thing, and then flow comes. So I wrote a letter to So here, I can go through, but I mean, the one that really led me to do this was, so I'm getting my MRI, and they say, and I'm trying to be quick and whatnot, and you can't be too quick in this condition. And so I put my glasses in my pocket, in here, and zip it up, and they put it in a cubby hole. They do the MRI stuff, and I come out there. You can get dressed now. And I take the coat out, put it on the seat in the area where you do this. Then I sit on my jacket. Oh God! I open it up and I've broken the glasses, and there's one, right out. And so I said, today I was writing. I said, "Dear Spirit, I have had such a number of accidents." And I started recently. Back in May, Teresa and I were on I-81, it's the equivalent of I-5 here. I-81 north-south towards the East Coast, just a little inland. 95 is the one really closest to the coast. 81 is the next one in. And we're in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And the next thing I know, I hear this crunch. And there is a truck. It wasn't a Mack truck, but it was as big as a Mack truck. And we've crunched. And a jolt. I was able to quickly get us out and to the side. The truck stops up front. We both are, is everybody okay? The miracle of it, on an interstate, being hit by essentially a Mack truck. I mean, it's hard to not see it. And nobody was hurt. We didn't need I mean, the miracle of that. And exchange numbers. The other miracle was the car got really, I mean, body damage and all that, but it was still running, and I was able to drive it back down to our home in Roanoke. Big car crash. Since then, had several really close ones. It's Halloween, and I step off the side of a curb and fall and really do, damage to the knee and area and all that, painful. And now I sit on my glasses, so I said, what can I learn from this? Why has there been so many collisions and this, that, and the other? What can I learn? And then the other, I love a writer, a spiritual writer by the name of Tasha Silver, who's written several wonderful books. One of them is Change Me Prayers, where she talks about, change me. And I just said, Spirit, I'm open, don't pull punches, what's going on? And what came back to me was very much, slow down. You're so often a human doing instead of a human being. Stop multitasking. I mean, you're living your life multitasking half the time. Stop multitasking. Slow down. Take a deep breath. Center. Basically, you're doing fine. All you need is a little mid-course correction. But and if you do these mid-course corrections of slowing down, stop multitasking. And then the Spirit then reminded me of that wonderful line. He's D.K. Suzuki, who is, he was a Japanese scholar on Zen. And I shared this at the congregation a few weeks ago, that he said the essence of Zen is when I eat a peach, I eat a peach. When I actually, and there are a lot of times in terms of food scarfing it. Reverend Deborah said, so many people are having food problems, maybe another image besides food. When I listen to a symphony, really listen to the symphony. When I look at a work of art, really look at a work of art. When I'm walking up on the wonderful path on the American River and it's fall, appreciate that. Those little gopher, are they gopher? I don't know if they have other names, but they all in the ground. Watch. Really concentrate and watch them playing. Isn't it funny? Just watch them, and to be really concentrated in that. And I had this great sense of going back to Lieberman that so much of my life, a lot of times, is multitasking, of not being there, of taking a walk in the fall along the American River, and yet what should be on my Whole Foods, shopping list, and oh my God, have I taken out enough money on my, RMD from this and that? I mean, oh my God, what happens if the air conditioning on the other side of the building at SLC goes and blows out? Instead of and it comes to the end of the walk, and you've done it, and you've not really been there. So I think some of that is the biggest takeaways I'm coming from that, and realizing that a lot of times I would so often I qualify in that 70% that Lieberman is talking about, that the eye is looking, and he doesn't mean just the eye, the ear is hearing something, but the ear is hearing something, and you're not. Your brain is somewhere else, and you're really not hearing. You're really not hearing it. And I had an experience really of the power of the mind. A few weeks. I mean, I think it was the first week I had the immobilizer on, and I was up there. It really hurt. And I prayed, God, please help me get through these two services and all that. And through the two services, it came to the end of the second service, and I realized I'd just gone through 3 hours where I hadn't felt a single drop of pain. And I'm sure my my nerves were sending, I mean, it wasn't they stopped sending pain signals, but my brain had taken all those pain signals and sent them out to the parking lot. And I mean, the power of as it were, of the placebo effect. So I think for me, some of the key takeaways, prime takeaway I'm from Lieberman is that, and I don't know if you can do, I mean, I don't know if I can do this as a Buddha would do it, but I mean, that a lot of these accidents would be avoided if if the mind, if the sense or the mind was aligned with what what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, and to appreciate that, to slow down, as it were, and also to when I eat a peach, I eat a peach, and then when you do that, you're more likely to experience those times of flow and those times of presence. And I was wondering if we might talk about experiences we've had in that multitasking, the mind one place and the other. I hope it hasn't led you to hit Mack trucks or hasn't led you to hit Mack trucks or to fall off curbs or something. And the other I was thinking if we might share would be times when we really have felt that presence, when we really were in that flow. And I'll share, for some reason, I was really in that flow during the tryout weekend here. Originally, Peg and I, we thought we'd probably be going to Austin, Unity Church of the Hills, and in Austin. And I had done a weekend there, and I thought my chances were very good, and the reasons to believe that. But then came here, and it just seemed like such a magical weekend. The service flowed, the interviews just flowed. I really felt centered. Josie and Sally took us around Sacramento. It was a magic. I mean, my at the time she was 10. My 10-year-old daughter didn't ask to look at her electronic equipment once. I mean, was just so fascinated by Sacramento and going into the Southern Fort and the Fab 40s and the state capitol and all that. And I think it was really a weekend where for most of it, I think I was in the presence and in the flow. And it was interesting. Usually I do have notes to do talks, but this time I didn't look at the notes. I didn't look at the notes once. It just seemed to flow. And that was, for me, a beautiful flow experience. Peg had very bad, bronchitis at the time, and she didn't fly here, although she watched the services and all that. And when I got back, I said, I know our plans were to go to Austin if we were to go to Austin, but I really think we're being called to Sacramento. And of course, I don't know if Sacramento will ask us, but I really felt called, and it was a big change. But that sense, and the other thing which I also take from Lieberman is that Taoist principle of Wu Wei. You can't force it. I mean, I'm going to go to Sacramento. It's going to be a fantastic, but to show up, to concentrate, to try to do whatever you can to have that alignment between, as it were, the eye and the brain, or the ear and the and mind, or whatever. And when you do that, the probability is that things will flow more. So that, I think, for me, is a very recent flow or presence experience. Peg, how about you in terms of multitasking, or a time when you had that flow experience in the presence?
Well, I was going to ask you, since we're talking about, we have a chapter related to color and what colors represent to us. So I was going to ask you, what color would you associate with your tryout weekend in Sacramento?
My favorite
Since
shade.
colors seem to represent emotions, as the chapter we looked at for tonight.
My favorite shade of blue, which turned out to be on the sanctuary wall. If you remember, it's a light. It's a light baby blue.
Yeah, that's lovely.
I had the sense, if I were an astronaut, recently I thought this, if I were an astronaut on other planets, I don't know about Mars, but if you were on the moon, it is, even when you're facing the sun, it's still, the sky is pitch black because there, no atmosphere. The blue comes from photons hitting our atmosphere, and we see it as blue. I think I would miss the blue, and every time I see a picture of the Earth from the moon, or out in space, and it's this, as Carl Sagan called it, pale blue dot. I mean, it's a sense of peace and a sense of home.
Yes.
How about you? Peg, how about you in terms of color?
Yeah, I very much relate to the color coral and all of the blues. I think they lift my spirit, whereas darker colors, blacks and grays, don't. So when you think about sunsets, for example, and all the gorgeous colors we see with that, that's what I like to think of in terms of color and lifting the spirit. How about others here in the room?
So about color, or experiences of
feelings associated with color, what they represent in terms of perhaps our emotions.
Do you want to start, RJ? Oh.
Well, the color question, when you asked us to think about a color during the prayer, I thought about red. That color really resonates with me about kind of having a passion for life, and kind of a softer red, not an angry red. But it is kind of two sides of the coin sometimes. Passion can be heated, and could be a negative emotion. So that's interesting. When you asked about the being in the flow, I was thinking about this past weekend. I'm a YOU sponsor, and we had a rally here. And one of the things we do to create an atmosphere where people can be present is that it's cell phone free. So as a person who is frequently on my cell phone, that's a change even for me. And I tend to think of the cell phone as pretty innocuous. I like to take a lot of pictures and stuff like that. But something about eating the peach, when you're eating the peach, that really stood out to me. And it was neat to be in the moment, having experiences and not necessarily documenting them.
Yeah.
So that really stood out to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A color combination that I always liked, when I was a teenager, we lived up in the foothills and here in California. And I used to do my chores, dishes, and all that stuff, and we lived in a small cabin. I have 2 brothers and then my mom and dad, and it was very small and congested, and as soon as I could, I would head out, and my dog would come with me. And on the mountainside, sometimes I would lay back in the grass, and I would look up at the sky, and the green of the pine trees and the blue of the sky behind it, that combination of that green and that blue was just amazing. And back then I wasn't into spirituality, or, I'm a teenager back in the, late 60s, early 70s. And I had an experience, though, while I was laying there, and also there were the white clouds up in the foothills, and I had a moment where I sort of lost consciousness, but I was conscious. And so in that moment, I experienced a type of meditation I didn't even know. And I remember going there and wanting to recapture that feeling, and staring at that combination of the trees and the sky. And it took me many years to get there, and it did require some spirituality. So I happened on it accidentally.
That's beautiful. Again, teenage years, and my father died when I was 17, so I didn't want to have anything to do with spirituality. So it was my atheist agnostic period. I was brought up in a Jewish household. So I forget whether it was either Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, the high holy days, and you're not going, I think it was Yom Kippur, my mother said, "You're not going to school." And I said, "I want to go to, we're not going to temple, I want to go to school." She said, "You're not going to school." So we had a woods behind our house. I remember I was reading Franz Kafka's The Trial. I took Kafka's book, went into the woods and sat down and read. And, it was only many years later, in my 20s, then had several spiritual experiences and really became, spirituality meant so much to me. And I was reading Gershel Sholem was one of the leading Jewish authorities on the Kabbalah and all that. And I read, he said, Franz, in the 20th century, the works of Franz Kafka were probably some of the most spiritual works written in the Jewish community. And I thought, wow, young punk, thumb your nose at all. And what do? I go into the woods, almost like a Waldenish type of, go into the woods and read something which Sholem thinks is some of the most profoundly mystical Jewish stuff, and it reminded me of the Psalm of, where could I go to get get away from you? I go to the highest mountain, you're still there. I go to the deepest part of the ocean, you're still there. And so wherever I go, there's no spot where God is not, as it were. That's beautiful about, your experience.
So the color for me is the blue with the green and the altar. I love that color. And this weekend, Sunday, I did a bunch of food prep because I was having 9 people come on Monday, and I had a workshop topic to do for them. And I had thought about what I was going to do, but I really hadn't put anything together. So Sunday morning, I just went in and started typing, and it all came out. And it was done. It was really pretty magical. And the food, I had gone to Costco to buy one thing, they didn't have it. I had to come home and start from scratch. So it all worked. We had a great time, and I had, it felt magical to be doing that.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you used the word magical, because I was also thinking of a word, wonderment. And I suddenly, while we were talking, I suddenly flashed back to an experience that I had when I was, I guess, a teenager, maybe 18, 19 years old. But I'm in part of the yard. It was in Memphis, Tennessee. There's a lot of greenery around. It was a lovely day. It was summer. And I just relaxed. It was unusual for me to relax these days, but I did. And what I saw next astounded me. I saw by just looking straight ahead with no expectation whatsoever. I saw cells that were in the air. They were just like you would go to a biology class, you'd look under a microscope and you would see cells. And I saw that, and I was in wonder, and I didn't understand it, but it reminded me that there was so much more in life itself than ordinarily meets the eye. And so that's not really associating it with a color, but I think when we have moments of wonder, they're really, really to be treasured, especially things we can't understand.
Thank you.
I guess it's me.
Yeah.
When you asked about the color, I was thinking blue and purple, and as I've been listening to everybody, I lived in the mountains a lot, and now at this part of my life, I need to go out every morning and walk in my garden, and when I go out, there's an actual and I feel like I'm in love. You know, there's so much coming back to me from my garden, and it's really this beautiful space for me. The aha, the zone moments I have, or if I can let go of the chatter in my brain when I'm doing art, I lose time. I've been doing it maybe 2 hours, and it's just been this beautiful, peaceful space. Not always peaceful, because sometimes I'm like pissed off because it's not working. But or when I'm dancing, I love to dance, and I've been getting ready for the women's retreat and trying to find the music. And you know, there were a couple days when I was feeling crazed about it, and now it's like I'm at a point where it's like, come on, it's just gonna work. And the more I've been just letting go of this has to be perfect, and I have to find the right perfect music, and I have to really, you know, it's coming together as I've gone into that God space of it's going to be there for me. And so the music is starting to show up, and it's like that same, there you are, you know. It's sweet, it's very sweet, and grateful to be able to have those moments, because I know being present is so important to all of us.
Beautiful. Mr. RJ.
Are we wearing?
I know, aren't we cool?
Yeah.
Green.
I'm enjoying being in this circle with all of you right now in the present moment. And so I want my, you know, when I'm eating a peach, when I'm here with you right now. And I want my mind and what my eyes see to be the same thing. Because when you were talking about that, Rick, about what the mind is seeing and what the body's seeing, you know, if I'm seeing all of you, but I'm thinking about dinner tonight, then I'm like split. I'm schizophrenic, or I'm like, you know, disjointed. But when I'm with all of you right now, present, then it feels very magical. It feels very peaceful. And I don't really have a lot to say about color, except I utilize all the colors of the spectrum. But I would say that, like you said, blue and purple are the different shades of purple and blue. I wear those a lot. I don't wear orange that often. I don't tend to wear red that often, although I absolutely really enjoy red. But I tend to wear these types of blue-greens and different shades of blue-green. But mostly I want to talk about being present. And yesterday was Veterans Day, so I had a free meal. As a veteran, I could choose to go to many different restaurants that were offering free meals. And I had prayed on it for a few hours, and I said, if I go to a restaurant, I'm going to go and be present. And being present means that I'm going to show up as a servant and with a loving energy. And so I said to myself, I'm going to look upon all the customers and just be present for every customer, everyone that's in the restaurant. I'm just going to have a loving energy. And I'm like, God, I truly, truly, truly want to be a loving energy. I don't want to be distracted. I don't want to be worried. I don't want to be afraid. I'm just going to be fully present to love. And so after 2 hours of preparation, I was able to go to the restaurant, and it was Outback Steakhouse, and I sat down with three other veterans, and then a man showed up, and he said, "Hi, I'm a chaplain. I'm a lieutenant, and I'm also a chaplain in the Air Force National Guard, and I'm also a Lutheran minister here in Sacramento on Marconi, very close to here." So he joined our conversation, and it was like being at a Cheers bar. It was like suddenly I was sitting there fully present with 4 different veterans, and they each had their own story. One man wanted to follow, he wanted to follow Old Testament guidelines, so he didn't want to eat shellfish, and he didn't want to eat pork, and he was talking about the Old Testament diet. And this other man was a Lutheran minister, and then there was a woman that was getting a master's degree in psychology. So, I mean, here I was at home and 2 hours earlier, and then I chose the restaurant. The conversations just opened up. People asked me questions, and we all became best friends within an hour of each other, exchanged some phone numbers, and the restaurant gave us all a free meal, and it was truly a beautiful experience. And I'm getting better at really being fully present here at Spiritual Life Center, and when I'm here with everyone in the congregation, and I activate that energy within me, and it feels wonderful to be fully present without distraction. And when I do my cell phone, I don't do it with shame or judgment. I'm present with Facebook, or I'm present with my emails. Whatever I'm doing, I'm present with what's going on. And it just feels, the next thing I'll say that's very important is, if something comes up that's not that, I have a very quick repentance process. And it's pretty dramatic, but I basically say, I'm sorry, God. If I get distracted, I immediately go into a very noble repentance where it's like, I'm sorry. I don't want to be distracted, and I don't want others to be distracted, Or I'll say, I don't want to be mean, and I don't want others to be mean. I don't want to be afraid, and I don't want to be afraid. So I go, Unity teaches affirmations and denials. So whenever I have a blip, I go into my denials. I'm like, nope, that's not me. I don't want to be afraid, and I don't want you to be afraid. And somehow that brings me back to presence. So usually, 3 or 4 times throughout the day, I'll have a blip. But I can repair a blip usually within about 90 seconds. I don't dwell on it. I don't get upset at myself. I don't go lock myself in my bedroom and get depressed for 6 hours. I have a quick blip. I have a quick repentance. And then I'm back to presence.
Beautiful. We have 2 folks back there. The question is first color. Could you repeat the question on color, Peg?
What colors do you most resonate with? What colors fill you? And what feelings come up for you
and then
when they do?
then also we're talking about multitasking, and then an incident where you really felt presence or flow.
Yes.
Here, this is interesting. So of multitasking, this is a really good example. So I can put the camera on me, and then I'm here. It's interesting that the color thing, I feel like I thought about it it must have been a YOU exercise. Or maybe it was interesting. When I was a kid, my favorite color was always red. I don't know why. When I was young enough to not think about why it was red. And then when I was about 12 or 13, for some reason it changed to blue. Like that was a cool, slick color. And I love blue. It's still one of my favorite colors. But as I got more comfortable with myself, entering puberty and that transitional phase, it shifted back to red. And my conclusion is that red is like some kind of organic, warm color to me that represents me. And then sometimes when I'm resonating with blue, maybe it'll be because it just feels open and spiritual, but sometimes I look at it and go, ooh, am I just trying to be slick right now? Or, it's funny to think about. I forgot the other part of the question. It was
A time of multitasking, and also a time when you really felt in the flow or in the zone, as it were.
For me, that would come down to working with people. When you get into that flow and that zone of working with or being around and interacting with a group of people in a way that's really harmonious and everyone expressing themselves in their own unique way. And like today, it's funny, like today at work, I got all the different people. I was working at Harris Center at the theater in Folsom, and we had people doing all kinds of tasks, putting things back, and they all had their own strengths and ways of approaching things. And I think the other example would be, like this weekend I helped out with music for the YOU rally. And standing right there in a place of, like, I'm leading the group in dancing and it's singing, but it's kind of a lot to expect people to jump in and to be singing and putting themselves out there like that. And I kind of had to just choose to go with it and choose to dive into that flow and commit and be authentic and not get caught up in insecurity or in bogging down, and just to in that scenario, choosing flow just as an intention and then letting it happen. I think it felt really good when stuff like that happens.
Thank you.
That sounds very interesting to me. I've never thought about choosing flow. I always thought, I'm lucky to be in the flow if I could do that. But I like the idea of choosing flow. I'm not sure how to do it, though. Can you tell me how to do it?
No.
Said no.
I don't know.
Just sort of happens.
I don't know, you just choose it.
Well, as we're coming to the end of the Faith in Action, I got to tell so Spiritual Life Center asked me to be the minister, and said yes, of course. It was the day where the American Pope was chosen, and I got a call from Reverend Janae as chair of the board, and she said, well, we saw white smoke coming up through a chimney too, and I think it was, I'm trying to remember what month I think it was May was the month that it happened. And so I get a call a week later from Reverend Deborah, and she said, well, we have this thing called Faith in Action. And she told me what it was. And then she said, and I picked the book, and I said, who's the book? She said, well, a guy by the name of Joseph Lieberman, Luminous Life, have you ever heard of him? My reaction was no. And so if I haven't heard of him, how important can he possibly? What a crummy choice of book. What do you guys, oh God. And I thought, well, all right, you have to go along with it this year. Next year, you can come in and squash this. And you have artists coming up oh God. And so Herbert Spencer, the British philosopher, called it Contempt Prior to Investigation. And that was me. So nose out of joint, come here, well, it's going to happen. You make the best of it, Rick. Get it, you know. And I've just been so, just so bowled over by this. I'm going to say Sunday, according to those great spiritual teachers, the monkeys, I'm a believer. You know, I couldn't leave her if I've been 10 spirit groups, over 100 people from the congregation involved in this forum. The artists, oh my goodness, the artwork has been just wonderful, and the written statements that people have made, have just been incredible too. And the Lieberman book, as I say, when I asked, why am I getting in so many accidents, Spirit was, said, what do you, essentially, what have you been reading? Pull out from Lieberman. There's your answer. And so I have become, a big believer in faith in action. I can't wait for next year to do this. And so I was curious. Any of you have experiences, sort of contempt prior to investigation, and then, when you actually experienced it was, it was actually it was actually wonderful. So.
Oh my goodness, who wants to go first?
Peg, do you have an example of something where, contempt prior to investigation, but then it turned out to be wonderful? And now she's going to say the first meeting she had with me.
Actually, that's true. That's right. That was magical. There was something mysterious going on that I couldn't explain, for sure.
I do have, all right, so I believe as a child I came in, some people say you come in as a child and you're innocent. I believe I came in as a full-blown ego. So I have a different theory. I think we come in with our ego traits and then we learn to be spiritual. I don't think we come in as a cherub. But so as a kid, I had contempt for guacamole. It looked like snot. I'm like a second grader and I'm like, ooh, yuck. And everything my mom put on the table. Lentils, ooh, they look like space aliens. They look like little eyeballs, yuck. I would eat French fries, but not mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes, they're so soft and wet and gooey, yuck. So contempt, I never even tasted them. My mom would say, just taste it. No, yuck. I would actually freak out if she tried to get me to taste it. I would actually throw myself on the floor and have a temper tantrum. All right, go to your room if you're not going to try that guacamole. I'd rather go to my room. So contempt prior to investigation.
Wow. Any other examples? Yes.
When when my kids were young and we'd take them someplace, the oldest one always said, I don't want to go. Of course, he had to go because there was nobody to leave him with. And then when we came home, he had the best time. It happened all the time. Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. Anybody else? Yeah.
So I think for me, back to YOU, this year I've started using like curriculum. The first year that I was a sponsor, I was sort of flying by the seat of my pants and trying to do something unity inspired and spiritual. But over the past couple months, I've been using a curriculum, and at first I was like, oh, this is so like artificial, we're gonna manufacture a spiritual experience. But I found that when I'm doing it, it's like Cameron was saying about choosing to be in the flow, choosing to eat the peach when you're eating a peach, choosing to be in a spiritual frame of mind by having an opening prayer, by lighting a candle, by reading something spiritual, by having discussion, by doing an activity. it does work. It does work, and people do have a spiritual experience. It's not probably not transcendent every time, but it's positive.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mine was coming to SLC the first time, and I think I had shared that before. My husband, my late husband, felt the need for spiritual community and support, and I had already closed the door on churches. I didn't want to go to any. I didn't want the dogma. I didn't want to be a part of, but I went to support him, and when the SLC used to be on L Street across from the fort, and I sat there with him, and the music started playing, and the minister talking, and I literally cried. It's like I was so surprised at what I found there, and then the other one was the same year that we first started coming. I went ahead and signed up for the women's retreat in 2009. It was in Watsonville. And then I paid for it and everything. And then I got scared because I didn't really know anybody at the church. And so I tried to give it away to a lady I had met. And she wasn't able to go that weekend, so I went, and it was amazing. It was so wonderful. And I've seen pictures on Facebook back then of all the women that were part of it, and I know them now, but then I didn't know them, and I look at the pictures and I go, wow, no wonder it was so good. There's some amazing women there.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it nice when we walk in with our fear and then we get surprised? And
Yes.
I think that as women, sometimes we're cautious around men, and the energy sometimes just doesn't fit very well. And it's like, oh, I need to be really careful here because who knows what's, And it was became an automatic thing of like, I better check this out because this doesn't feel good to me. And sometimes that's smart. I'm not saying it isn't smart. But then there's times when it's like, oh, I'm so glad I just got neutral and got to know that this is just kind of an injured person or someone that really needs a little more care, and a little more patience. And I've been very happy to find out that they're usually very kind, and it's not so scary. Life as a woman. Yeah.
Our friend in the sound booth, contempt prior to investigation, you investigate, and you were there, and it was wonderful. Wait, let's go. Yes, as you say, microphone.
Microphone. Hold on a second. I don't need to be on the camera. Content prior to investigation. I feel like I encounter this so often that I'm expecting it. So sometimes it flips around, and I actually, you shouldn't content something you shouldn't have an assumption when going into something. Sometimes I feel like I give things the benefit of the doubt because I would rather do that than immediately have a judgment. I wasn't really thinking about it. Let me see here. I don't have a very good answer to that other than I'm surprised every day by how things turn out differently than you might expect. Maybe I'll have another answer at a later date.
That's wonderful. So as we come, at least this part of the end of the Faith in Action, we'll celebrate the end on Sunday. It was RJ's original idea with the candle and the meditation. I Just thought it was so wonderful. So RJ, if you could do that, don't forget to speak into the microphone. I didn't mean, I should have asked you beforehand, but.
Sure, we're good. Just take a moment to put your attention on the flame, and not only put your attention on the flame, but your intention on the flame. As an example, we're all co-creators here, and each and every one of us can give our time, our talent, and our treasure to this community called Spiritual Life Center. And when we become clear with our intention, we magnify our calling, and we have an ever-increasing spiral of good. So simply allow your intention to be the greatest possible good for Spiritual Life Center. And if there's any block, simply take a deep breath and say, I deny, I don't want this, I only want love. I say no to fear and yes to love. I say no to criticism and yes to love. So each of us now can take a moment in the silence to simply put the intention to that light. As the intention hits the light, it will then go up to God. Please trust. Know to yourself now and trust that this is a precious and magnificent moment right now. As we look around the room towards each other and recognize we've had 6 weeks of faith in action, we have all put our faith into action through art, through inspiration, through journaling, through community. And when we pay our attention to that and put our focus on that and have that willingness to have that singleness of purpose, nothing can get in the way. We are here now in love with each other and in love with this community. Amen.
Amen. We say that wonderful prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
All is well.
Thank you all. And as I say, in terms of Faith in Action series, I'm a believer. So
I wish everyone a wonderful rest of your evening, and thank you for being here and sharing. It's been quite wonderful.
and thank you for staying up so late, Peg, on the East Coast.
Right. No problem, no problem.
Thank you.
It was either this or another Hallmark movie. Ah.